Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jeanette Salguero, and I'm a senior here at Calvin, studying business with a concentration in human resources. And today I would like to welcome you all to the January series 2016. Please take a moment to silence your cell phones. And while you're doing that, we would like to give a special welcome today to the guests at 3 of our 48 remote webcast sites: McBain, Michigan, downtown Grand Rapids, and Burnaby, British Columbia. We'll be gathering questions today through Q&A cards available with our ushers and through email or Twitter. So feel free to think about these questions during the presentation and send them our way. Our moderator, Karen Soapy, will gather questions and present them at the end if time is allowed. Now, if you would please pray with me. Lord, we thank you for your goodness and faithfulness. At this time, we come together as one people, as one body in Christ. We ask you to open our ears, our minds, and hearts as we hear from Gabriel and Jeanette. We bless them as they bless us with their words and wisdom. We worship you and we love you, Lord. In your name we pray, amen. And now, Cynthia Slaughter, professor of Spanish here at Calvin, will introduce our guests.
It is my pleasure to introduce the Reverends Gabriel and Jeanette Salguero, pastors at El Calvario in Orlando, Florida. Reverend Gabriel Salguero is president of the National Latino Evangelical Coalition and has been named as one of the most prominent Latino evangelical leaders. He has written on ethics and race, multicultural ministry, immigration, and spirituality in public work. He defines himself as a Latino progressive evangelical. The Reverend Jeanette Salguero provides leadership with urban strategies to promote health and wellness initiatives that empower Hispanic communities. She worked with the Reformed Church in America, designing and implementing wellness programs. She served as a consultant for the Wesleyan Church on Hispanic congregational health and leadership. She has published articles on multi-ethnic leadership, hunger advocacy, and urban religiosity. Calvin College is grateful to Friends of the January series for underwriting today's presentation. Please join me in welcoming Gabriel and Jeanette Salguero.
Qué bueno estar con ustedes.
To be with you.
Me dijeron que todos ustedes hablaban español.
They told us that you all speak in Spanish.
El lenguaje preferido de Calvino.
The preferred language of Calvin.
Allow us to thank
Permítenos dar gracias
Calvin College
al Colegio de Calvino
and the Friends of the January series
y los amigos de esta serie de enero
for having us here this morning.
por tenernos aquí en esta mañana.
We're delighted to be here.
Estamos contentos de estar aquí.
You will be hearing the presentation in 2 languages.
Estarán escuchando en 2 lenguajes.
This is how we worship almost every Sunday.
Así adoramos casi todos los domingos.
And so you're not being limited, you're being expanded.
Si no está siendo limitado, está siendo expandido.
And then I have 3 warnings.
Tengo 3 advertencias.
Number 1,
Número 1.
if Jeanette doesn't like what I'm saying, she will translate something totally different.
Si a mí no me gusta lo que él está diciendo, yo voy a hacer algo diferente.
And so if you're a Spanish speaker, you'll get a better reflection.
Yes. Si entiendes español, lo irás mucho mejor.
The second warning
Y la segunda advertencia,
is that do not conflate passion with lack of intellect.
no confundan pasión con falta de intelecto.
I'm Latino, if you haven't noticed.
Soy latina
And sometimes people think
Y a veces las personas piensan
that passion
que pasión
is somehow antithetical to deep reflection.
es antitético a la reflexión profunda.
I have found
Yo he encontrado
that our deepest reflection
que nuestra reflexión profunda
integrates emotional intelligence
integra inteligencia emocional
with the intellect.
con el intelecto.
And so, just
pues,
because I'm passionate
Porque soy apasionada
does not mean I have not thought deeply about what I'm speaking
no
about.
significa que no he pensado profundamente de lo que vamos a hablar.
Often, one of my heroes, Dr. King,
Uno de mis héroes, el Dr. King,
his gift to the nation
su regalo a la nación
as an organic intellectual
como intelecto orgánico
is that he could tie passion
es que él puede aferrar pasión
to critical thought.
al pensamiento crítico.
When we bifurcate those things,
Cuando bifurcamos esas cosas,
we create a dualism that is unnecessary.
creamos un dualismo innecesario.
And part of my Hispanicity
Y parte de mi hispanidad
is that I try to integrate
es que yo trato de entregar
passion
pasión
with critical deep reflection.
con reflexión profunda y crítica.
And I find no problem with that
Y
integration.
no tengo problemas con esa integración.
And the third warning
Y la tercera
is that I
advertencia
was trained Reformed
es que fui entrenado reformado,
and I was raised Pentecostal
criado pentecostal
and pastored a Wesleyan Holiness Church.
y pastoreábamos una iglesia wesleyana.
I am not confused.
No estamos confundidos. We're
I'm
integrated.
fully integrated.
Estamos integrados.
I embrace hybridity.
Yo abrazo la hibridez.
One of the gifts of the Latino church
Uno de los regalos de la iglesia latina
to the U.S. topography of religiosity
a la topografía de la religiosidad
is that it embraces hybridity.
es que abraza la hibridez.
It embraces multiple identities in a way that seeks integration.
Abraza múltiples identidades que busca integración.
To be clear,
Para estar claro,
like any other group,
como cualquier otro grupo,
Latinos are not a monolith.
latinos no son un monolito.
There's a great diversity of Hispanicity or Latinidad.
Hay grande diversidad en hispanicidad.
The largest group of Hispanics in the U.S. are Mexican or Mexican
El
American.
grupo más grande son mexicanos americanos.
Second largest group, Puerto Ricans and Cubans.
Segundo, puertorriqueños y cubanos.
And then the third largest group from Central America.
Tercero, de
A
Centroamérica.
mix of so many groups.
Tantos grupos en ese grupo.
We're not a monolith.
No somos un monolito.
We're not a monolith religiously.
Religioso, no somos un monolito.
The biggest group are Latino Catholics.
El grupo más grande son católicos.
They're 55% of Hispanics in America.
55% de la hispanidad en América.
There are 54 million Hispanics in the United States.
Hay 54 millones de nosotros en los Estados Unidos.
Life is grand.
La vida es grande, ¿no?
54 million Hispanics in the United States.
54 millones de hispanos en los Estados Unidos.
50.4 million
50.4 millones
living in the 50 states.
viviendo en los 50
And about
estados
3.8 million in Puerto Rico.
y como 3.8 millones
That,
en
as you
Puerto
know,
Rico
is wrestling with bankruptcy and challenges
que
at this present
lucha
moment.
con bancarrota hoy día.
Of that, 55% are Catholic.
55% católicos.
In the last 12 years,
En los últimos 12 años,
Hispanic Catholicism has declined 22%.
el catolicismo ha bajado 22%.
They were 77%, now they're 55%.
Ahora son 55% de 77.
Hispanic Protestants
Los protestantes hispanos
are 22% of Hispanics in the country.
son 22% de los hispanos en el país.
About 16%, a little more,
Como 16%, un poco más,
self-identify as evangelical and or Pentecostal.
se identifican como evangélicos o pentecostal.
The other 6% as mainline
Los otros
Protestants.
6% de la reforma.
And they have grown in the last 10 to 12 years by 8%.
Y han crecido por 8% en los últimos años.
The third largest group of Hispanics
El tercer grupo más grande de hispanos
are the religiously unaffiliated.
son los no afiliados.
Some people call them the nuns, the N-O-N-E-S.
The nuns. There's no translation for that.
Okay, there's not,
It just isn't.
it doesn't work, does it?
Los nones.
No. They, A lot of people think
Muchas personas piensan
that the fastest growing group of Latinos religiously are the evangelicals.
que el grupo más grande que crece más rápido son los evangélicos.
It is not.
No lo es.
The fastest growing group of Hispanics
El grupo más grande creciente de hispanos
is the religiously unaffiliated.
es los no afiliados.
So one of the questions that we as pastors and as public theologians ask
Una de las preguntas como pastores y como teólogos que preguntamos es
is the arrival and birth of Latinos in the U.S.
la llegada y el nacimiento de los latinos en los Estados Unidos.
Will it make the U.S. more religious
¿Hará nuestro país más religioso
or will it make Latinos more secular?
o hará a los latinos más seculares? Right?
Young Latinos between the ages of 18 and 29, young Hispanics.
Los hispanos jóvenes de la edad de 18 a 29,
This group, religiously unaffiliated, is growing fast among them.
este grupo no afiliado está creciendo y avanzando.
Some months ago, Jeanette and I had an interview with Latina magazine.
Algunos meses, Gabriel y yo tuvimos una entrevista con la revista Latina.
And the interviewer, she said to us,
Y la que nos hacía preguntas nos dijo,
tell me about the phenomena of Latino Protestantism, particularly Pentecostalism, growth in America.
dime el fenómeno del protestantismo creciente en América.
And I said, that's really not the biggest growth.
Y yo dije, ese no es el grupo más grande
It's the
creciente.
secularization of Hispanics
Es la secularización de los hispanos
when they come to the global north.
cuando llegan al norte global.
Philip Jenkins wrote a book some time ago,
Jenkins escribió un libro hace poco,
The Next Christendom, The Coming of Global Christianity.
El próximo Christendom, la globalización.
He says that Latinos and Africans and Asians,
Dice que latinos y africanos y asiáticos,
the religiosity that we bring,
la religiosidad que traemos
it tends to be conservative theologically.
tiene una propensidad de ser conservadora teológicamente,
It tends to believe in the supernatural, the mystical.
creer en lo sobrenatural, lo místico.
Pew had a survey that said
Pew tuvo
una
encuesta que dijo,
That-
thank you,
that when you ask a Latino religious person, mainline, Catholic, or evangelical,
que cuando le preguntas a un latino religioso
if they spoke to God in the last year, a high percentage would say yes.
si hablaban con Dios en el último año, un alto porcentaje decía que sí.
So Latinos,
Pues latinos,
although we're not a monolith,
aunque no somos un
we do
monolito,
reflect this transcendent, charismatic Christianity that Jenkins talks about.
reflejamos esta carisma trascendental que Jenkins habla.
And it's part of our
Y es
contribution
parte de nuestra contribución
to Christianity in the United States.
al cristianismo en los Estados Unidos.
Most people think
Muchas personas piensan
that the majority of Hispanics living in the United States
que la mayoría de los hispanos viviendo en los Estados Unidos
are foreign born.
son nacidos fuera del país.
It's not true.
No es cierto.
64% of Latinos living in the United States
64% de los latinos viviendo en los Estados
are
Unidos
born in the U.S.
nacimos aquí en los Estados Unidos.
So like me,
Como yo.
I'm a Jersey Rican.
Yo soy New Yorker.
I'll explain that to you.
Lo explico.
I am
Yo soy
a person
una mujer
born in New Jersey
nacida en Nueva York
of Puerto Rican parents.
de padres
That makes me a
puertorriqueños.
Jersey Rican.
Eso me hace New Yorker.
She was born in Brooklyn,
Él nació en Long Branch.
in Long Branch, New Jersey. And so that hyphenated existence
Y esa existencia de entremedio
of 64% of us,
del 64% de
of
nosotros,
course,
ciertamente
informs our religiosity, our liturgy, or how we do
forma
church.
nuestra liturgia, religiosidad, cómo hacemos iglesia.
What I've just done is define a broad definition of who Hispanics are.
Lo que hice es darle una definición vasta de quiénes somos.
I live in the Latino evangelical world.
Yo vivo en el mundo evangélico latino.
67%
67%
of Latino Protestants define as evangelical and or
de
Pentecostal.
protestantes, de nuevo decimos, se identifican como evangélicos y o pentecostales.
We're a funny group.
Are we?
No, you are.
Somos un grupo chistoso.
Let me define us politically for a minute.
Déjeme definirnos políticamente.
We are the quintessential swing voters.
Somos los votantes más ambivalentes.
Yeah, we we tend to be
tenemos una propensidad
socially conservative
conservadores socialmente
and economically progressive.
y progresivos económicamente.
Right? So George W. Bush
Pues Jorge W. Bush
won the Hispanic evangelical vote by a slim margin both times.
ganó el voto de la hispanidad por muy poco, 2 veces.
Barack Obama won the Hispanic evangelical vote
ganó el voto de los hispanos evangélicos
by a slim majority both times.
ambas veces por un poco.
We tend to be,
Nosotros tenemos
again,
propensidad,
caveat, we're not a monolith.
caveat, no somos un monolito.
The most conservative among Latino Christians.
Los más conservadores en la cristianidad.
But we tend to be much more progressive than our white evangelical counterparts.
Somos un poco más progresivos que nuestros hermanos anglosajones.
So when I get invited to speak or Jeanette gets invited to speak,
Pues cuando nos invitan a hablar,
I say I'm Latino.
yo digo, yo soy latina.
And they say, oh, he must be progressive.
Dicen, oh, él es progresiva.
And I say,
Y yo digo,
I'm evangelical.
yo soy evangélico.
Oh, he must be conservative.
Oh, ella es conservadora. Right?
And I say,
Y yo digo,
but I'm a Latino evangelical.
Pero yo soy una latina evangélica.
And they say,
y ellos dicen,
what in the world is he?
¿qué son?
Right? That is
Esa es
and can be
y puede ser
a unique gift to the American populace.
don regalo para la humanidad, popularidad.
Because we speak in tongues.
Porque hablamos en lenguas. You see, we're doing it right now.
That's right. Yeah, so, right. And so we have conversations
Tenemos conversaciones
with the African American and the black church,
con los africanos americanos, la iglesia morena,
with the Asian church.
la iglesia asiática.
You will see us talking
Tú nos ves hablando
about Black Lives Matter,
de las vidas morenas que son importantes,
about criminal justice reform,
de la justicia criminal,
about community policing.
de la policíaca.
Then we have
Y
conversations
tenemos conversaciones
with white evangelicals
con nuestros hermanos blancos,
on issues of life.
asuntos de la vida.
And so it's an interesting conversation
Es una conversación interesante,
because often these two groups don't talk to each other.
porque usualmente estos dos grupos no se hablan.
And Latinos,
Y los latinos
we come in every hue and every color.
venimos en todo color y en toda faceta.
There are Latinos,
Hay latinos,
black Latinos,
latinos morenos
and white Latinos.
y latinos blancos.
And so one of the contributions
Y una de las contribuciones,
we hope
esperamos,
is that we are bridge builders,
que somos edificadores de puentes,
that we can talk across differences
que podemos hablar sobre las diferencias
without losing our gospel center.
sin perder nuestro centro del evangelio.
54 million of us,
54 millones de nosotros,
8.3 million Hispanic evangelicals,
8.3 millones evangélicos,
2.5 million Hispanic mainline Protestants.
2.5 protestantes.
We have something to say,
Tenemos algo que decir
and we have an autonomous voice.
y tenemos una voz autónoma.
Let me talk to you about some challenges we face.
Les hablamos de unos retos que confrontamos.
The first challenge is
El primer reto es
people think that Latinos only speak about certain topics,
que los latinos solamente hablan de ciertos tópicos,
that we have a myopic vision of the world,
que tenemos una visión miópica del mundo,
that we don't have depth of analysis around a whole panoply of issues.
que no tenemos una profundidad de análisis en muchos sujetos.
So we get invited to talk about immigration,
Pues nos invitan a hablar de inmigración,
racial reconciliation,
reconciliación racial.
and I feel like Fredo in The Godfather. Yes, baby.
Yo me siento como Fredo en el Godfather,
Telling Michael,
diciéndole a Michael,
I'm smart.
Yo soy
I'm
inteligente.
smart, Michael.
Yo soy inteligente.
I could talk about nuclear disarmament.
Nosotros podemos hablar de desarmamento nuclear,
I could talk about Karl Barth's theological anthropology.
de la antropología,
I could
de
talk
Karl
about
Barth,
Abraham Kuyper and public theology.
Kuyper y la teología pública.
I could talk about Calvin's Institutes of Religion and its implication for immigration.
El Instituto de la Religión de Carver y sus implicaciones para la religión.
And And so one of the challenges to broader Christianity
Y uno de los retos para el cristianismo más amplio
is to think that Latinos can be ghettoized or marginalized to speak about certain
es
topics.
pensar que los latinos solamente son marginados para ciertos sujetos.
And so when we want to talk about philosophy and religion,
Nosotros queremos hablar de filosofía y religión.
we invite certain groups,
Invitamos ciertos grupos,
but not others.
pero no otros.
The gift
El regalo
of the maturation
de la madurez
of Hispanic Christianity
del cristianismo hispano
is that we have something to say
es que tenemos algo que decir
about every topic
de todo sujeto
that our brothers and sisters have something to say about.
que nuestros hermanos también tienen derecho de decir.
The second challenge we have
El segundo reto que tenemos
is how we're going to deal with immigration.
es cómo vamos a liderar con la inmigración.
We've had xenophobic rhetoric
Hemos tenido retórica xenofóbica
from political candidates
de candidatos políticos
that reflects nothing of the gospel of Jesus
que
Christ.
reflejan nada del evangelio de Jesucristo,
For I was a stranger,
porque fui forastero
and you welcomed
y
me.
me diste la bienvenida.
And the nations will ask,
Y las naciones dirán,
when were you a stranger?
¿cuándo fuiste
And we did
forastero?
not welcome
Y
you.
no te dimos la bienvenida.
And Jesus will
Y
say,
Jesús dirá,
as you did to these little
como
ones,
hiciste con estos pequeñitos,
so have you done unto
así
me.
has hecho conmigo.
But it's not just political rhetoric.
No es retórica política
In the
para
last
nosotros.
20 days, we've had raids
En los últimos 20 días hemos tenido enredadas
where our people are being deported.
donde nuestra gente están siendo deportadas.
And the question is,
Y la pregunta es,
are we living in a moment in America
¿estamos viviendo en un momento en América
where we're reliving Exodus chapter 1?
donde estamos reviviendo Éxodos capítulo
And I
1?
paraphrase it for you.
Y les doy un parafraseo.
There was a Pharaoh who knew not Joseph who came into Egypt.
Había faraón que no conocía a Jesús y entró a Egipto.
And he said,
Y él dijo,
what shall we do with these people?
¿qué haremos con esta gente?
For they are multiplying and they are many.
Porque ellos se multiplican y son muchos.
And he assigned them taskmasters
Y les asignó maestros
that oppressed them.
que los oprimían.
And they had to build more brick with less
Y
straw.
tenían que edificar más edificios con menos labrillo.
I want to tell you
Quiero decirles
that immigrants,
que inmigrantes,
Latino, Asian, African,
latinos, asiáticos,
West Indian,
africanos,
Canadian, Irish,
canadiense, holandés, de todos,
they are not a challenge to America.
ellos no son un reto para
They are a
América.
gift to America.
Son un regalo para América.
It is the zeitgeist.
Es el zeitgeist.
It is the spirit moving through history.
Es el espíritu moviéndose en la historia.
I wish Emma Lazarus were alive today
Yo quisiera que Emma Lazarus estuviese viva hoy
and we could hear her say the words of the new Colossus.
y escucharla decir las palabras del nuevo Coloso.
Bring me your poor,
Tráeme tus pobres,
your hungry,
tus hambrientos,
your huddled masses,
tus masas,
yearning to be free.
añorando ser libres.
We have an opportunity
Tenemos una oportunidad
to define the future of this country
de definir el futuro de este país
as hospitable
como hospitable
or xenophobic.
o xenofóbico.
And you and I
Y usted y yo
have something to say about that.
tenemos algo que decir de eso.
Christian responsibility
La responsabilidad cristiana
demands that we lift our voices.
demanda que alcemos nuestras voces.
And it's not an easy topic.
Y no es un tópico fácil.
The details in the policy are complicated.
Los detalles y la póliza sí son complicadas.
But silence is not an option.
Pero el silencio no es una opción.
Somebody's got to speak up.
Alguien tiene que hablar.
People do not leave their countries
Las personas no salen de sus países
where their home language is spoken
donde su lenguaje se habla,
unless there's serious economic and political pressure.
al menos que haya presión seria, política y económica.
Last year, over 100,000 kids came from Honduras, Guatemala, and El Salvador.
El año pasado varios niños, miles de niños, cruzaron la frontera.
Jeanette and I spent some time in Honduras.
Gabriel y yo pasamos un tiempo en Honduras.
Those towns are controlled by la MS-13,
Esos pueblos son controlados por las pandillas MS-13,
the gangs,
Las
la Mara
pandillas.
Salvatrucha.
Mara Salvatrucha.
What does it take
¿Qué toma
for a mother
para una madre
to put her child on a train
poner su hijo en un tren
that ironically is called the Beast
que irónicamente se llama la bestia
to save his or her life?
para salvar su vida?
And then when they come here,
Y cuando llegan aquí,
we have people with signs
tenemos personas con rótulos
blocking buses,
no dejando autobuses pasar,
telling them,
diciéndoles,
go home.
vayan para atrás.
What they really mean is,
Lo que verdaderamente quieren decir es,
we don't care if you die.
no me interesa si tú mueres,
Just don't die in front of us.
no te mueras al frente de nosotros.
This is a difficult thing.
Y esto es dificultuoso.
And in the midst of all of this,
Y en medio de todo esto,
Dietrich Bonhoeffer asks us,
Dietrich Bonhoeffer nos pregunta,
who is Jesus Christ for us today?
¿quién es Jesucristo para nosotros hoy?
Where do we see the face of Jesus?
¿Dónde vemos el rostro de Jesús?
We were on CNN
Estuvimos en CNN
saying that the church should be a sanctuary for these children,
diciendo que la iglesia debería ser un santuario para estos niños.
that they're refugees,
Si son refugiados,
that the church should welcome them,
que la iglesia le debería dar la
just as
bienvenida,
Jesus welcomed us.
como Jesús nos dio la bienvenida a nosotros.
The interview was around 10 in the morning.
Y la entrevista era como a las 10 de la mañana.
By 11:30 in the morning,
A las 11:30 de la mañana,
the voicemail in my church was full
el correo electrónico de nuestra iglesia estaba lleno,
with the most hateful language I'd ever heard.
con el lenguaje más odioso que hemos escuchado.
You know, I'm from New York.
Yo soy de Nueva York.
I've heard colorful language before.
Yo he escuchado lenguaje colorido.
and I was like,
Y
I'm a reverend. Don't they know something could happen to them?
yo soy un pastor, ¿no saben que algo puede suceder?
The threats were so serious,
Y las amenazas eran tan serias,
that we had NYPD and NJPD
que tuvimos la policía de Nueva York y Nueva Jersey
escort my children to school every day for a month.
escortar a nuestros hijos a la escuela por un mes casi.
My sons are 10 and 6.
Mis bebés tienen 10 y 6.
How do you explain to them
¿Cómo le explicamos a ellos
that we live in a country
que vivimos en un país
that threatens clergy
que amenaza a los pastores,
for standing up for immigrants?
clérigo que están parados por los inmigrantes?
My son says to me,
Mi hijo me dice,
I'm picking him up.
lo estoy recogiendo de la escuela,
He says, Daddy,
y me dice, papi,
why are the police following us every
¿por qué
day?
nos sigue la policía todos los días?
And I was about to cry.
Y yo estaba al punto de llorar,
I was holding it back.
y estaba aguantándome.
And he says to me,
Y me dice,
is it because we did something good?
¿es porque hicimos algo bueno?
And then he said something to me I preach every week at my church.
Y nos dijo algo que predicamos toda la semana.
Remember, Daddy,
Acuérdate, papi,
love wins.
el amor gana. Amen. Amen.
What we are learning
Lo que estamos aprendiendo
is that we're all in this together.
es que estamos en esto juntos.
That the Latino church will have an impact on American culture.
Que la iglesia latina tendrá un impacto en la cultura americana.
And the American culture will have an impact on the Latino church.
Y la cultura americana tendrá un impacto en la iglesia latina.
That is the nature of relationships.
Esa es la naturaleza de relaciones.
There's mutuality and reciprocity.
Mutualidad y reciprocidad.
But we are living
Pero vivimos
in a Daniel and Esther and Joseph moment.
en un momento de Daniel, Esther y José.
Let me explain what that means for us as the Hispanic church.
Lo explico qué es eso para nosotros como una iglesia hispana.
There are watershed things happening in the Hispanic church
Hay cosas sucediendo en la iglesia hispana
that have great consequence for U.S. Christianity.
que tiene grandes consecuencias para la iglesia en los Estados
Number
Unidos.
one,
Número uno,
Daniel, Esther, and Joseph are coming of age.
Daniel, Esther y José están de edad.
What does that mean?
¿Qué significa eso?
It means that we are fully bilingual and bicultural.
Somos completamente bicultural y bilingual. Daniel
Spoke fluently in Chaldean,
hablaba completamente en caldeo
but he prayed in Hebrew.
y oraba en hebreo.
And that means we know the dominant culture,
Sabemos, entendemos la cultura dominante,
the systems, the structures, the principalities and powers, to quote Walter Wing.
los sistemas, las estructuras y todo eso, para citar a Walter Wing.
But we also know
Pero también sabemos,
we pray in Hebrew.
oramos en hebreo.
We know the immigrants.
conocemos al
We know that
inmigrante,
Hispanics have the highest dropout rate.
que los hispanos tienen el porcentaje más alto que no terminan la
That
escuela,
Latinos are the most underinsured and uninsured community in the United States.
que nosotros somos la comunidad más que no estamos con seguro médico. Daniel
spoke in Chaldean,
hablaba en caldeo,
but he prayed in Hebrew.
y oraba en hebreo.
Esther,
Esther
she spoke Persian,
hablaba persia,
but she prayed in Hebrew.
pero oraba en hebreo.
A whole group of us,
Un grupo entero de nosotros,
Xers and late boomers and millennials,
Xers y boomers y millennials,
we're integrating the other churches,
integramos las iglesias,
but we're lifting the cries of our people.
pero estamos alzando las voces de nuestro pueblo.
Great impact.
Gran impacto.
So much so that now all the organizations are recruiting Hispanics.
Tanto así que muchas organizaciones están empleando hispanos.
They're looking, denominations and universities and the President's Faith-Based Advisory Council and Coca-Cola and Pepsi, and because they know, wait a minute,
Porque ellos saben,
54 million,
54
what shall we do with
¿Qué
these
haremos
people?
con este pueblo?
Secondly,
Segundo,
immigration.
inmigración.
The more
Entre más
there's anti-immigrant rhetoric in America,
hay retórica anti-inmigrante en América,
the more
más
the children that are raised
los hijos que crezcan
are poisoned with cynicism.
van a estar venenados con cinicismo.
The biggest challenge
El reto más grande
of being Christian leaders
de ser líderes cristianos
in the public sphere
en la esfera pública
is cynicism,
es cinicismo,
despair,
desesperación
and nihilism.
y nihilismo.
Cynicism,
Cinicismo,
despair,
desesperación
and nihilism.
y nihilismo.
And so
Pues
we must be intoxicated with hope.
necesitamos ser intoxicados con esperanza.
We are incurable, hope-filled people.
Somos un pueblo esperanzador.
The arc of the moral universe is long,
El arca del universo moral es
but
larga
it bends towards justice.
y se gira hacia la justicia.
So what we tell our children
Lo que le decimos a nuestros hijos
is
es:
there's injustice,
hay injusticia,
but love wins.
pero el amor gana.
But the more they see
Pero entre más vean
resistance to their parents and their grandparents,
resistencia a sus padres y a sus
the more
abuelos,
cynicism,
más cinicismo,
despair,
desesperación
and nihilism
y nihilismo
seeps into the Latino consciousness.
penetra a la conciencia latina.
I need you to hear me, Calvin,
Calvin, escúchenos.
friends of Calvin.
Por favor, amigos de Calvin.
As Christians,
Como cristianos,
we transact in hope.
transactamos en esperanza.
I was reading Ta-Nehisi Coates,
Leía Ta-Nehisi Coates,
you know that letter to his son?
su carta a su hijo.
He's angry.
Él está enojado.
By the way, he has a reason to be angry.
Él tiene un motivo por la cual estar
We call that
enojado.
righteous indignation.
Eso se llama indignación justa.
But the fundamental difference
Pero la diferencia fundamental
of Christian theology
de la teología cristiana
is that righteous indignation
es que indignación justa
is always showered with hope.
siempre está cubrida con esperanza.
To be a prophet
Ser profeta
is not just to tell the world what's wrong with it.
no es decirle al mundo solo lo que anda mal.
That's a critic.
Eso es un crítico.
A prophet
Un profeta
tells you what's wrong
te dice lo que anda mal
and then gives you alternative
y
solutions.
te da soluciones alternas.
And so the Latino church
Y pues la iglesia
has
latina
a struggle for its consciousness.
tiene una lucha por su conciencia.
Will we become
¿Seremos
nihilistic
nihilísticos
or will we become hope-filled?
o estaremos esperanzador?
I choose hope
Yo escojo esperanza
because hope has chosen us.
porque la esperanza nos escogió a nosotros.
The other day,
Los otros días
I got arrested for civil disobedience.
lo arrestaron por desobediencia civil.
We don't get arrested on the same day because we have children. So we
Someone has to take care of the babies.
arrest,
Y
you
entonces
know.
hay que gotta
Tuesday's
coordinate it. We
you,
have to
Friday's
coordinate
me.
it.
Civil disobedience
Desobediencia civil
is the cry
es el lloro
when injustice reigns.
cuando la injusticia reina.
Henry David Thoreau would talk to us about
Thoreau nos habla
that moral consciousness.
de esa conciencia moral.
We have a problem.
Tenemos un problema.
Maybe it's part of the history of certain Protestant ethics.
Quizá es un problema con la ética protestante.
That we think because something is legal, it's moral.
Pensamos que quizás porque algo es legal es moral.
That's called legal positivism.
Eso se llama positivismo legal.
Slavery was legal.
La esclavitud era legal.
It was immoral.
Era inmoral.
Women's disenfranchisement
El marginal de las mujeres
was legal,
era legal.
but it was immoral.
Pero no era moral.
Apartheid was legal,
era legal,
but it was immoral.
pero era inmoral.
And the immigration laws of this country,
Y las leyes de inmigración en este
we have a
país.
20th century system
Tenemos un sistema del siglo XX
with the 21st century problem.
con un problema del siglo XXI.
And so the church must ask itself,
Y la iglesia necesita preguntarse,
not necessarily how we can break the law,
no cómo rompemos la ley,
but how can we
necesariamente,
improve the law?
pero cómo podemos mejorar la ley.
Because
Porque
we answer to a higher authority.
nosotros contestamos a una autoridad más alta.
Latinos, we're learning
Latinos aprendemos
that our primary allegiance
que nuestra alianza
is
primordial
not to the Republicans or the
no
Democrats.
es al republicano y al demócrata,
It's to the gospel of Jesus
es
Christ.
el evangelio de Jesucristo.
And whenever any party
Y cuando cualquier
or
partido
both parties
o ambos partidos
or some of the lesser known parties
o alguno de los otros partidos
advocates for practices and policies
abogan por prácticas y pólizas
that oppress people,
que oprimen a un pueblo,
the Christian must stand.
el cristiano debería hablar,
Because silence is complicity.
porque el silencio es cómplice.
And so
Y pues
I'm arrested,
lo arrestan,
me and several other pastors, about 40 of us,
como 40 pastores clérigos.
and I start singing in jail. I figured I'll have my Acts 16 moment right now.
Yo pensé, voy a tener mi Hechos 16. Y él comenzó a cantar.
And I'm going to sing.
No. Please don't.
I am.
He did it.
Ain't gonna let nobody turn me around, turn me around, turn me around. Ain't gonna let nobody turn me around. I'm gonna keep on walking, keep on talking, walking down the freedom lane. The sergeant starts going.
Y el sargento comienza.
Ain't gonna let nobody turn me around.
Turn me around.
All the Dutch people, come on.
Turn me around. Ain't gonna let nobody turn me around.
I'm gonna keep on walking.
Keep on talking, walking down the freedom lane.
And the challenge
Y el reto
of being a prophetic community,
de ser una comunidad profética,
which I believe is a particular, although not unique, contribution
que es una contribución particular, no necesariamente única,
of Latinos in the U.S.,
de latinos en USA,
is that we
es que nosotros
can romanticize justice.
podemos romantizar la justicia.
We have conferences,
Tenemos conferencias,
we sell books.
vendemos libros.
There's a justice complex
Hay un fenómeno de justicia
in Christianity that makes thousands of dollars and tens of thousands of
en el
dollars.
cristianismo que hace miles y miles de dólares.
I go to conferences, I speak, I'm part of the
Yo soy
complex.
parte de la complejidad. Nosotros hablamos en
And
esta
in
conferencia.
colleges and universities,
Y en universidades y colegios
it's faddish, it's in vogue.
está en vogue.
And people tweet and Instagram and Facebook.
Y tuitean. There's no word.
Right? If people lived
Si las personas viviesen
half the quotes
mitad de las
of
citas
justice they put on social media,
que ponen en los medios sociales,
this world would be a better place.
este mundo sería un mejor lugar. Yes.
But when the moment comes
Pero cuando llega el momento
that you're incarcerated,
que estás encarcelado,
they label you.
te nombran,
Yeah, we're on CNN, right?
estamos en CNN,
Right? And they put
Y
Reverends
ponen
Gabriel and Jeanette Salguero.
Reverendos Gabriel y Jeanette
They don't
Salguero.
put pastors.
No ponen pastor,
They put
ponen
Christian activist.
activista cristiano.
And I'm like, that's a redundancy.
Eso es una redundancia.
Because to be a Christian is to
Porque
be
ser
active in the
cristiano
world.
es ser activo, right?
And they label you
Y te nombran
because the greatest way to dismiss a person is to label them.
porque el poder más grande para rechazar a una persona es nombrarlo.
He's a conservative.
Conservativo,
She's a liberal.
liberal.
Instead of trying to get to know why
En
they
vez
advocate for that position,
de entender por qué abogan por esa
the
posición.
easiest way to dismiss somebody
Lo más fácil rechazar a alguien
is to label them.
es tacharlo.
But we're Christians.
Pero somos cristianos.
We're called to live with people.
Somos llamados a vivir con personas.
Encarnation.
Encarnación.
Encarne.
Incarnate.
To hang out with their flesh.
Estar con su carne.
And so,
Y pues,
the 8 million or so Hispanic evangelicals,
los 8 millones más o menos,
we've been fighting for
evangélicos.
over 10 years
Hemos estado peleando por 10 años
for immigration reform.
para la reforma migratoria comprensiva.
We've been incarcerated more times than we care to admit.
Encarcelados varias veces.
Despair
Desesperación
knocks at the door.
toca la puerta.
I met with an African American leader,
Me reuní con un líder africano-americano
and he told me,
y me dijo,
remember the civil rights movement?
acuérdate del movimiento civil,
More than 14 years
más de 14 años,
to get the Voting Rights Act.
para buscar el acto de votar.
And you begin to sing
Y tú comienzas a cantar.
the cantus firmus of people of hope.
El cantus firmes del pueblo de esperanza.
Ain't gonna let nobody turn me round, turn me round, turn me round. Ain't gonna let nobody turn me round. I'm gonna keep on walking, keep on talking,
Yes.
walking down that freedom lane. Let me share.
Comparto
I
algo.
told you that I was raised Pentecostal,
Les dije que nací pentecostal,
trained Reformed,
entrenado reformado.
did my PhD work at Union Seminary.
En nuestro doctorado, su doctorado en Union,
She went to Duke.
yo fui a Duke.
It's nice. It's a good place. Good place.
It's an excellent
Yeah,
place.
wonderful. But let me tell you the real story.
Les digo la historia verdadera.
My father was a homeless man.
Su padre era un hombre desamparado,
He lived under bridges.
viviendo bajo puentes.
He was a heroin addict.
Era un adicto a la heroína.
He started sniffing glue around the age of 9 or 10.
Comenzó a leer pega a la edad de 9 o 10 años
Evolved or devolved into harder drugs.
y revolucionó a drogas más fuertes.
You all know we have a heroin epidemic in this country, right?
Ustedes saben que tenemos una epidemia de heroína.
Presidential candidates are even talking about it.
Candidatos hablando.
In the Latino community, we've had it for 4 decades.
En la comunidad latina lo hemos tenido por 4 décadas,
But now it's a national issue.
pero ahora es un asunto nacional.
Things that make you go.
Cosas que te hacen decir.
But God's grace reached my dad,
Pero la gracia de Dios llegó a donde mi papá
and a woman visited him in prison
y una mujer lo visitó en la prisión
and preached to him the marvelous gospel of grace.
y le predicó el maravilloso evangelio de la gracia.
He learned to read in prison.
Aprendió a leer en la prisión
God changed his life.
y Dios cambió su vida.
He became a pastor.
Se convirtió a ser pastor.
He's my pastor.
Él es nuestro pastor.
In more than 27 years,
En más de 27 años,
he's helped over 400 men and women
él ha ayudado más de 400 hombres y mujeres
get off drugs.
salir de las drogas.
Secular people use the language of rehabilitation.
Personas seculares utilizan el lenguaje de rehabilitación.
Pentecostals call it transformation.
Los pentecostales lo llaman transformación.
Both are fine.
Ambos están bien.
My dad,
Mi papá,
I was at the White House advocating for immigration.
estábamos trabajando en la Casa
I left the White
Blanca.
House
Salí de la Casa Blanca
and I called my dad.
y llamé a mi papá
I said, Dad,
y dije, papi,
who would have thought
¿quién pensaría
that the son of a homeless man,
que el hijo de un hombre desamparado,
heroin addict,
adicto a la heroína,
would be advising the President of the United States?
aconsejando al presidente de los Estados Unidos.
And he said,
Y él dijo,
boy,
niño,
if you got there,
si llegaste allí,
it's to represent all our people.
es para representar a nuestro pueblo.
The gift
El regalo
is that we
es que nosotros
are family.
somos familia.
When the American consciousness
Cuando la conciencia americana
rejects Samuel Huntington's thesis of the clash of civilizations,
rechaza la tesis de Huntington,
he wrote another book
él escribió otro libro
in 2004
en el 2004
called Who Are We?
llamado ¿Quiénes somos?
He said that Hispanics are a threat to America.
Él dijo que los hispanos son una amenaza a América.
It's not just political candidates.
No son solo candidatos políticos.
This is a Harvard political scientist.
Esto es un científico de Harvard.
My father,
Mi padre,
who by God's grace,
que por la gracia de Dios,
God transformed him.
Dios lo transformó.
That's why we advocate for second chances and criminal justice reform.
También abogamos por reforma criminal.
That's why I am a staunch advocate against the death penalty.
Estamos en contra de la penalidad de muerte.
Because I know firsthand that anybody can be changed.
Porque yo conozco personalmente que cualquiera
Because
puede
if
cambiar.
people can't change,
Porque si no pueden
let's
cambiar,
close churches.
vamos a cerrar nuestras iglesias.
Let's stop preaching the gospel.
Dejemos de predicar el evangelio.
Let's close every school because people can't learn.
Cerremos las escuelas porque nadie puede aprender.
Let's stop being psychologists and psychiatrists.
Psicólogos y psiquiatras.
If people can't
Si
change,
las personas no
our
pueden
preaching
cambiar,
is in vain.
nuestra prédica es en
And the
vano.
resurrection is just an idea.
Y la resurrección es solo una idea.
And so,
Y pues,
when he told me that,
cuando me dijo eso,
shaken to my core,
me sacudió en mis huesos.
he then said to me,
Entonces me dijo,
Gabriel, acuérdate
Gabriel, remember
que nosotros somos gente de esperanza,
that we are people of hope.
que el evangelio
That the gospel
es un evangelio de esperanza
is a gospel of hope.
y que nosotros
And that we
somos agentes de esperanza.
are agents of hope.
Y como el poeta irlandés decía,
And as the Dutch poet would say,
lo último en morir
the last thing in dying
es la esperanza.
is hope.
Y mi oración
And my prayer
es que la iglesia latina
is that the Latin church, Latina
sea
church,
una inyección
be an injection
de esperanza
of hope
para esta nación.
for this nation.
Amén.
Amen.
If you have questions, you can write them on cards and pass them to the ushers. You can email them to jseries@calvin.edu or tweet them using the handle January Series. Several questions from students this morning about the nature of multicultural worship. You've just taken a new calling. You've been at Lamb's Church. So maybe as you're adjusting to the warm weather of Orlando and getting a feel for what the church feels like there, talk about Lamb's Church and how that worked.
So the Lamb's Church is in Manhattan, in the Lower East Side of Manhattan, in Chinatown. So a third of our congregation was Chinese, a third was Spanish-speaking from every country, and another third was English from many different English-speaking backgrounds. We had our first service at 10 a.m. was in Chinese, Mandarin, and our second and third service was bilingual, simultaneous by Spanish and English. And every 3 months, we would worship together. Very difficult work. Our worship team would have to sing phonetically and learn languages. Our Chinese brothers and sisters would have to learn English phonetically. It was a wonderful mess and wonderful motley crew. Worshiping the Lord together. Our board meetings were in 3 languages. So a lot of work, but it can be done.
Yeah, I think the biggest challenge to anything, church, seminaries, colleges, is sharing power. Lord Acton said, power tends to corrupt. People misquote it. He doesn't say power corrupts. He says power tends to corrupt. And absolute power tends to corrupt absolutely. And so if there's anything we learn from Jesus is the kenosis, right? Everybody has power. Michel Foucault, the French postmodern philosopher, would say that power is ubiquitous. Jesus had power. Andy Crouch writes a book about power. And it's not wrong to have power. What's wrong is the refusal to share power with people who are different from you, right? John 14 or John 12, it says, when Jesus learned he had all power, immediately he took off his towel, took a basin, and began to wash feet. When he learned he had all power, he immediately began to wash feet. And so the biggest challenge, because if not, multiculturalism is not everybody from different cultures worshiping. That's aesthetic multiculturalism. Deep multiculturalism is when people share power, share voices, and when we see each other as equals. Not a token, but I have something to learn from you, and you have something to learn from me. And it is very, very slow and very, very difficult.
We say if you weren't uncomfortable, if you weren't uncomfortable in any one part of the service, then we weren't doing true multiculturality.
I want to tag on to this question. You also said there were different worship styles. The Chinese service was traditional, high liturgy, and then the second one was quite contemporary.
Yeah.
One of our students has asked, what are some ways predominantly white churches can open up to Latinos?
Look, I think that look, it's not going to happen overnight. Look, Western Michigan has large groups of agricultural, farmers and day laborers. I mean, massive amounts. And so you can start with ESL, you can start with citizenship classes, but that's just the beginning. In the age of Google and in the age of the internet, there's no reason you can't learn about other cultures. It's no reason. It's ubiquitous. Also, you need to invite people from other cultures to speak, listen. The first thing you hear about God in Exodus 3 is, I heard the cry of the people. Empathetic listening is a good pastoral care, spiritual discipline, but it's also a good multicultural leadership discipline. You invite people not to tell them, this is how we do church. How do you do church? I mean, how does God speak to you? What are the cultural manifestations of liturgy for you? And so you begin with conversations, testimonials, and listening. And then you find people who are experts in doing that and bring them in as resources to help you to be your Sherpas. And then, these are the best words I learned, especially for our Mandarin language worship service. I'm sorry, I didn't know. Please teach me. I'm sorry, I didn't know. Please teach me.
We'll give you a small example. Our Chinese community, they bow. They bow especially to the pastoral team. They would tend to bow even further. It's their way of respecting the office.
Yeah, I mean, these are foreign-born.
Yeah, foreign-born,
not
right.
U.S.-born.
Right. So one of our elderly Chinese ladies bowed, and Gabriel went to hug and kiss her.
Puerto Rican.
So she just slammed right into his chest.
She broke my sternum.
So apparently throughout the week, they had the same idea to alternate, and
I said, next week I'm going to bow.
And she decided that she's going to hug, and he busted her lip.
I busted her lip.
So it's a wonderful mess.
What I'm saying is it's difficult, and I'm sorry it takes you a long way.
I was going to ask if there were any awkward moments. That's good. Could you talk a little bit about your relationship over the years with President Bush and with President Obama and your interactions with them?
Being recorded, so...
And I'm not asking you to take sides.
No. Let me say...
Hi, Barack.
Hi. Hi, George. Hi, Jeff. Barack. Hi, Hillary. I'll name them all. Hi, Donald. Okay. Listen. I feel that our role is the role of Daniel and Joseph and Esther, which is we advise from an autonomous platform, and from what Richard Mao calls convicted civility. George W. Bush, for example, together with Senator McCain, tried to push immigration reform, and they couldn't get it. You know, and so, you know, on that issue, we felt that he, you know, we disagreed with him on other issues of war and preemptive strikes and all that. And so what we do is, and here's the danger of proximity. Proximity can often be interpreted in the public as a tacit endorsement.
Right.
Because people don't know what you're telling them behind the scenes. And so how are you respectful to the office of the president? How do you give honest advice like Daniel and say, hey, Nebuchadnezzar, hey, Darius, this is wrong. Or Joseph, while at the same time not being used. And so it's a dance. What we've always done is been honest, been direct, been respectful, and been cautious that we're not used as political pawns or partisan pawns.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Bowing aside, what's one of the biggest struggles within your congregation that you've experienced about or surrounding racial reconciliation?
Wow. Powerful.
I think the lack of perseverance.
That's good.
Native American proverb says, if you want to know a person, you should walk 2 miles in their moccasins. It's hard to enter into somebody's pain, right? Because if I'm telling you, hey, this has happened to me historically, there's pain, there's colonization, there's oppression, that can often produce guilt. Mm-hmm. That's not the purpose. Guilt is not, nobody wants white guilt or black guilt or Latino guilt. Responsibility and accountability is not guilt. And so navigating those first difficult conversations and for people to have the spiritual and emotional endurance to persevere through the pain first before you can build the table. I think that's been the biggest challenge. Mm-hmm. Most people will leave, independent of race or culture or gender, they will leave during the hard time before they can enjoy the fruits of that process. And so spiritual perseverance and the capacity to listen long term, because when people are complaining about their pain, a lot of people say, well, that's in history, I didn't have anything to do with that. Yes, but.
Leroy Barber said, Monday, we need to listen and not answer right away.
And the question is not, can I be your brother in Christ? It's, can I be your brother-in-law? Mm-hmm. You know? Can I marry your sister who's of a different color or different, right? That's the question. And not just, I don't want you just to sing with me on Sunday. I want you to care what happens to me from Monday to Saturday. Then I have the freedom to trust you in worship.
Mm-hmm. One of my students asked, what does a church potluck look like at your church? I don't know what it tastes like.
An additional 10 pounds.
I think maybe the intent of the question, though we're interested in the menu, is do people really mingle and blend? Because you have separate services in separate languages, then they come together. Does it work?
It does work, and here's the key. Children.
Yes. They lead us.
You know, prophetess Whitney Houston.
Oh my gosh. I believe the children are the... That's where you're going?
Teach them well and let them lead the way. Show them all the beauty they possess inside.
Give them a sense of pride.
Should I ask a different question?
And so, look, everybody wants the same thing for their children.
Yes.
You want them to be good people. You want them to be moral. You want them to be respectful. So our kids are not like looking at them. Are you trying? You know, you see them as human, created in the imago Dei. And my goodness, if our children can do that in Sunday school and we can't do it in worship, Lucy, we have a problem.
We've got some explaining to do.
So I do think that children and young people are key. How is it that our schools are more integrated than our churches? Mm-hmm. And we have the gospel.
What do you think we should do as a church with people who are here without documentation? What should we do as a church for people who are here without documentation?
I should get cheers for this one.
We should love them like we love anybody. Love knows no boundaries. Like when I give communion or when I baptize, I don't ask them before I give them the body and the blood of Christ. Where were you born? Mm-hmm. Do you have your documents before you have the body and the blood of Christ? Mm. It would be anathema. All is ready. Come. Right? And so that's one. Number two, we need to advocate for better policies. These are 12 million people living in the shadows. We may not all agree on the details, but we certainly all agree that they were created in the image and likeness of God. And there's got to be a way that 12 million people who are here, many of them women and children, can be integrated. Even if that means waiting in the back of the line. By the way, there is no line. So first of all, we got to start talking the truth about what policies exist.
Did you know that? There is no line.
Yeah, so we can't just use talking points that we haven't researched ourselves. So love them, accept them in the church, sanctuary, ESL, but then we need to advocate for policies that reflect Christian principles. Not Republican principles, not Democrat, not independent, Christian. And let's read the Bible, what it has to say about the stranger. The word stranger appears 92 times in the Old Testament, and all 92 times is welcome.
I have one more question, but it's in Spanish, so I can't read it. I'll show it to you later, but it is 1:30. And so the Salgueros will be in the West Lobby to greet you afterwards. Thank you for coming. Have a great day. Thank you again.